The most important thing is that you have a vision, that you have a goal. Because without that vision and without that goal, again, you're drifting around and you're never gonna end up anywhere. People don't become successful just by accident.
You're gonna get your ass kicked, we're gonna get the shit kicked out of us. You gotta get up, you gotta have faith that the one thing you wanted to happen oftentimes is the best thing that never happened. So have faith, just keep that in mind, keep plugging away.
Never accept the limitations of someone else. Somebody told you that it's impossible. Don't even try. Give up before you even fucking try it for yourself. Never accept the goddamn limitation that someone else has placed upon you.
And now, FitnessInformant.com presents the Iron Union Podcast. Let's go.
Here we are, guys, back inside the FIHQ. Another episode of the Iron Union Podcast, this time on site, live in person, down in Houston, Texas. I was at Glaxon, or Zero Day Manufacturing Facility, beginning of last week, and then the tail end of the week, I flew out to Dallas and checked out our buddies at Rise. But this conversation that you guys are tuning into today, or watching via YouTube, is with the fellas at Glaxon. So you have Michael Bischoff, who is the CEO, Sam Strange, who is involved in the many different things at Glaxon, and then Joey Savage, who I guess you'd call the chief science officer, the nerd of the family, a very intelligent, wise person. Myself, Gerhard, and Robert Schinetsky, we're all down in Houston, Texas. So this is the Iron Union Podcast, but G and Robert got to ask questions and be part of the podcast, be part of our podcast. You're probably also going to hear this podcast on Robert's Supplement Engineer platform. I haven't seen Robert in a while, so it was great to see him. G, I've seen more since he's left FI than I'd seen in the previous 2 years because of COVID. I always have a great time with Sam. Sam and I go way back to the time at Pitbull Labs. Sam is one of my favorite people in the sports nutrition space. I've gotten to know Michael Bischoff quite a bit over the last 6 months to a year, roughly, of working with Glaxon, of working with him side by side. He is one of the coolest people, I think, in the space. And Joey is just an encyclopedia of knowledge. I mean, Joey has been around. He spent time with Nutrabolt over in the Cellucor brand. He obviously here now with Glaxon and Zero Day and just doing some really cool stuff. Now, when you think about Glaxon, you probably think about a brand that is extremely innovative, but I'm telling you, they are also a marketing juggernaut. They have some cool stuff coming out that I got privy to seeing when I was down in Houston, and I can't share until they tell me the time is right. But the one thing is, and goes for the entire trip in Texas, the whole thing was a clusterfuck. And what I mean by that is these guys from both brands are being pulled in a million different directions. Trying to get them to sit down for 5 minutes and have a conversation is an absolute shit show. But we were able to get somehow, some way, Sam, Michael, and Joey all in a room together. It was like 6 o'clock at night. There's alcohol involved. Yours truly did not partake, but many others did. And we had a good conversation about all things Glaxon, the 2021 campaign, their 2022 year, their partnership with GNC, how it impacts their retail network, and where they go from here. And I hope you guys and girls and anybody who is listening or watching to this podcast very much enjoy it. And if you do us a favor, hit that subscribe button, whether you are listening on Apple iTunes or you're listening via Spotify, you're watching via YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Help us out by writing us a review. It helps out the algorithm so more people can view and watch the Iron Union Podcast. Our social channels, we're on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter to some extent, and TikTok as well. A lot more happening over to our TikTok channel, so check those out. I'm going to sit back, send it down to Houston. This is myself, Gerhard, Robert Schinetsky, Michael Bischoff, Sam Strange, Joey Savage, the crew from Glaxon. Let's go.
Adding my product is going to help you get to where you want to be.
5%ers is 5% of the people in the world that are willing to do whatever it takes to reach their goals.
We're talking about business, success, education, willing to do whatever it takes. Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
For the last 2 decades, we have been the best kept secret of the supplement industry. We've kept our heads down and worked. We pioneered full label transparency and full therapeutic doses because we believe that truly hard work requires truly effective tools. 2 decades is a long time to commit to one pursuit, but when you act with purpose and become centered in yourself, eventually you realize that you were born and bred for this. The things you once thought impossible, you now do every day. We don't like the easy way, it just doesn't feel right. We'll take the long, hard road over a shortcut any day. It takes longer, sure, but in the end, you know you earned it. And with the right team behind you, pushing yourself further than you've ever been will be just another afternoon doing what you love most.
Back. Well, after like a 6-hour delay. Iron Union Podcast, Supplement Engineer Podcast, right? Was that what you call yours?
Sure. Yeah, that works.
We are hosting these 4 jabronis. Well, 3 and G. He's with us. Sam Strange, Michael Bischoff, Joy Savage from Glaxon. They look very excited to be here, don't they, Robert?
Can I just clarify, G's here of his own accord, he's not here working.
Yeah, he's just here to hang
I'm
out.
working, I was having fun.
I started the first edition of this
G needs
podcast.
somewhere to sleep for the next couple
He does.
Pretty much.
I'm gonna let
He's
Robert.
sofa surfing.
I'm gonna let Robert start the podcast because I talk too much generally. So I'll let Mr. Schinetsky over here ask the first question or statement.
Mr. Bergman.
First off, thank you guys for hosting us. This is awesome.
Thank you for coming.
We appreciate
Wait,
it.
they're hosting you?
I mean, they've let us, just...
They let him drive here.
Yes,
In the
they-
sense that like a family hosts a woman in Handmaid's Tale, kind of like that.
I don't.
Well, if
That
anyone
sounds
else is
sexual.
listening,
Sure.
then they'll understand.
Okay, go on.
They are opening up their offices to us to come
Nothing
in.
like a hand-played scale. just clarify.
Completely useless. But yeah, thank you guys for this. This is awesome. It's good to see G and Ryan. I haven't seen you guys since the Arnold 3 years ago, probably.
Great
now.
to see you, man.
Who's going to the Arnold this year? Anyone?
Not me.
Any of them?
I bet your Arnold will be there.
I wouldn't think so.
Probably right.
Usually goes, right?
Big question. What's on tap for 2022 after a baller 2021, gentlemen?
I think 2020 was pretty baller too, just to clarify. So back
That's
to back.
2 years ago. That's like 15 years ago in supplement land.
It's true,
I
actually.
can't remember what I had for breakfast.
Right.
Don't go back.
Especially with like
Couple of
50
years,
second
but-
clips on Instagram and all that stuff.
Oh, man.
Yeah. How do you improve and continue to make awesome shit for this year?
Well, I think we tried to elaborate on this a little bit with people like Brian and like any of the platforms that sort of did the like brand of the year and evaluation of like our basket of goods from 2021. It's going to be almost impossible for us to like deploy as many different things as we did last year from like a product standpoint. I mean, there'll be flavors. There may be some upgrades. There's going to be some V3 things that we've planned, but I think we're trying to figure that out still. Like, obviously, we're going to keep it interesting, and we do have like a kind of a war chest of things that we want to do, but getting the brand sort of where it is right now changes like the difficulty in just rolling out.
I'm a big advocate in breadth before depth, so we've definitely got a lot of breadth now, but we need to add some depth into those SKUs, which are more flavors, perhaps some licensed flavors, authentic collab type flavor vibes. There are obviously some new categories that I think we're going to be a first to even bring into the sort of active nutrition space. Won't give too much away here because obviously then won't be the first because someone else can go and do it. But yeah, when you have someone with a box of tricks like Joey, when it comes to the ingredients and our sort of mixture of creativity and different sort of eyes for this, it's organic. We just keep finding new ways to, and I hate this word a little bit because it's been used a little bit too much, innovate, but we do try and innovate the space, but that's one part of a bigger pie of what we do here at Glaxon.
You mentioned collaborations. Do you think you guys need that?
We don't need it, but it's nice to have it because we can afford it, so.
Yeah, I think there's just like, there's so many people that are kind of jumping into that. With lots of cool stuff.
Like
I'm sort of proud of like where Glaxon is, like despite not having anyone else's IP like in our flavors or whatever. I mean, obviously we have partners on the ingredient side. And those that's definitely some IP sharing, but I'm kind of proud of like where we are right now, and I like that when somebody reaches for a Glaxon product, like the first thing that they're looking at is like our crazy label, which is kind of like, it's like album art for us. Mm-hmm. Like every product looks different, so we put a ton of creative energy into kind of like giving someone an experience. And then the products do really well, like we don't release anything that we don't really believe in, and I don't know how long we will carry on without having any licensed flavors. It's something we do discuss, like,
we get offers.
Often.
We get offers all the time.
Yeah, we've had people reach out and want to do some things. Not something you haven't heard of, but it's just not really on brand, like, for us at the moment.
It has to be very compelling for us to do it, so not another Me Too sort of flavor.
There's some things that
we've flavor collab right here.
There's some things that we've kind of wanted, but it's like going from 0 to 100. Like they're like very ambitious.
Sure.
I think it's inevitable that we'll have one. Is it going to happen this year or next year? Right. I really have no idea.
I think it's Robert and I, and even G for the longest time, we're in a different, like, you guys don't necessarily have to concern yourself with the day-to-day, customer ground level, retail ground level, people like social media wise, but when you guys made the announcement this year that you're doing a deal with GNC moving forward to essentially fuel innovation, a lot of brick and mortar retailers were pissed. They just assumed off the bat, like, you probably heard it, I heard it, I'm sure you heard it.
I definitely heard
the whole like F Glaxon, they've gone corporate. What's the conversation piece to the brick and mortars who have been there
Let's
since
not
day one?
confuse like selling out of products
I
with selling
agree.
out of corporate. Because
Yeah.
do you know what I'm saying? We sell out product, we don't sell out.
I
We
agree.
have SKUs which are available exclusively for the wholesale channel.
Sure.
And we have some SKUs which are available in GNC. And GNC's been around since what, 1920 something? So GNC's always been around. The real threat for brick and mortar is Amazon. Something we've not even put any money into.
Right.
So I don't know who does more for wholesale than us, really, to be honest. But
Can you explain a little bit for the listeners that might not understand what wholesale versus just going with GNC is? Because some people have no clue what that is.
Good point, Robert. So wholesale would be specialty brick and mortar retailers, which are the lifeblood of the industry and something that is like a rite of passage, and we're very thankful for our retail partners. There's a lot of very good stores. There's some shitty ones too, to be fair. But people are nodding their heads in this room. But we have definitely not walked away from that area of the industry. It's something that we're all very passionate about. We've all come up through those ranks.
Sure.
And, being successful isn't selling out.
Mm-hmm.
Selling out would be saying you can't have our products anymore. We're only going to go through GNC and no one else can have it in the world, and that's not what we've done. So.
Well, on that note,
I had a really good, candid conversation last week with Tim and Steve from Natural Body. I forget what Steve even called me about, but
shout out Natural Body.
Yeah, but Steve is like a massively outspoken member of this brick and mortar specialty.
He's the voice of the
small, medium-sized chains like all over the U.S. And like our position with GNC, I'm very candid with him, and they're not concerned with that because like our products do well for them, and we show up for them. We were like, after this partnership with GNC was announced, we were in Queens. Like, I mean, you were there.
Yep.
The part of the conversation that's interesting is our protein is coming. The Protos that we've launched, like sort of like a test to get feedback and like refined it a little bit. We're coming out with 3 flavors in that, like in the next quarter, let's say. We would not be able to do that and make money if we didn't have a partner that had like deep pockets like GNC does, because we couldn't. I mean, we can try to pretend like it's a good business decision, and if you're a fan of what we were doing, what we've done so far, like we have no intention of like letting up on a lot of the cool things that people come to us for.
Right.
We've kind of gotten this like innovative, distinction as a brand, and like that's going to probably get like more intense because of the capabilities that we'll have. The brand's going to make more money. It's going to have bigger distribution. Like when we do innovative things, it's going to go into thousands of stores.
Thousands of GNC stores, or also
all of the stores. Yeah, I mean, we don't have. I'm not going to get into the weeds of the details, but like there's nothing about our relationship with GNC that like just stops us from doing business with the people who helped us build the brand. And that's not going to change.
Right.
So the cool thing is that our partnership with GNC is going to enable us to do more that we wouldn't have otherwise been able to do. Like I would have never been like, hey, let's run this protein that costs $20 a unit to make, like in relatively small batch, and then put it in, to 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 5, 6 chain stores all over the country and spend, ridiculous amounts of money shipping it. Like, what's the point in doing that? If you do something cool and it makes money, you can do it over and over and over again and add to it. If you do something cool that doesn't make any money, it's only going to last so long.
Right.
So that's like kind of like a winded.
To be honest, everyone who was buying Glaxon in the very early days, literally all of them are still with us. All of the people are here from the beginning. So if those guys have seen it go from a nothing brand to a something brand to one of the hottest brands, now being a big brand, and they're still with us, that tells me that we are doing the right thing.
For Joey, how's it been for you? How has innovation changed for you from being a new brand to a hip brand to now a big brand? I mean, these guys come to you and say, hey, I need you to hit this price point, and you formulate, or do you just formulate based on what you like and hope you hit the price point?
We formulate based on what we like, and then we hope to hit a certain price point. And if it doesn't, we got to find out do we bring a dose down? Do we lose an ingredient completely, kind of thing? And now with our work with GNC, everything's got to be backed up by full human clinical safety and toxicity studies. So when it comes to like the newer things that are like probably legal and probably good, if we want to get that raw material and like sell a bunch of it and get it in decent quantities so the price makes sense, it's a lot harder to do that. It's a lot harder to be so far out on the cutting edge, because even like when you want to be, there'd be like, well, we don't have studies that back this up in long term for safety at this dose, all these different hoops you have to jump through. So, has it gotten a little bit more challenging in that sense? Yeah. It's nice though, because we keep up with like the cutting edge of science, and we know that results of these studies are only like a month or 2 away before we can get these ingredients actually into a store where we can buy them.
When you partner with a big retail chain like GNC, do they have any kind of flex or input onto your ability to create products, as far as, say you want to sell something off channel, just D2C? Do they say, hey, if you're partnering with us, you can't sell this because it's not in our.
No,
it's
that's not at all the case. We're gonna have.
It's a partnership. It's not a dictatorial relationship. Okay. So
yeah, we're gonna have several different ways of getting products out. We'll still have D2C. We'll still have our own website. We'll still have our independent stores and it's like a scavenger hunt. If you want to have like the entire brand, you're never going to be able to go into just one store.
You have to embrace the omni-channel. It's the only way to be successful now, in my opinion. So,
Joey, you spent some time, and I guess Sam, you as well, but Joey, you probably spent the most time at a large corporate entity within this space and a previous employer. Does anything about like the growth of Glaxon remind you of those guys? Does anything scare you about how quickly you're growing and how big you could potentially be?
Yes.
I'm having to do everything. I'm having to do everything that I've ever done in my whole life at about 3 times the speed that I've done it previously. And are we following a similar path? Yes and no, because a lot of this is happening for us much more quickly than it was with the other brand. So I like the fact that I'm being challenged that hard, because at the end of the day, I haven't gone through all those previous experiences for nothing, and and I just have to use those skills all over again.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm curious about is where do you guys keep finding inspiration? So we've seen you kind of go into some new product categories. What is that spark of inspiration?
Can I tell you one thing it's not?
Yeah.
The industry. That's not a source of inspiration to us. We're not looking at what anyone else is doing. We're not paying too much attention. We celebrate good brands. We buy good product. But we are not looking insular like a lot of these brands are. I think that's why Glaxon looks completely different to anything else. So
I would say like just kind of a different like way of what Sam just said. Like the industry, the industry at large, like all these other products that we make on our manufacturing side for brands that aren't ours, like it's just so intuitive, like what is going on. Like it's not something like I don't need to go look at what's being done because I already know, I already know what kind of like I have very realistic expectations for like what's going to be in this category of product across the industry. So I wouldn't say that we're just like not like overtly not looking and recognizing what other people are doing. Like it's just I don't see that kind of moving along like and progressing all that much. Like we were having a conversation about like what's going on with pre-workouts right now. If we put together a product and it's in a category like a traditional category that's been around for a while, like of course it's going to include nuts and bolts that are similar to a whole bunch of stuff out there, but and I forget what brand it was, but we did something recently and somebody was like, oh, so-and-so brand's like already done that, and I'm like, I don't even, it's not even worth my time trying to convince you that like that wasn't even a thought. The thing is that like that's just so intuitive. Like of course that someone's done that. Of course someone put electrolytes in their amino product or whatever, whatever it is. So Sam's like totally correct in saying that. Like we're not looking out at the industry and being like, oh, kind of like me too. This we use a lot of products in the industry. We buy a lot of competitors' products.
All the time.
We've got like there are
you saw me do it today, guys.
Yeah, there's direct competitors to Glaxon, and like those products are like pretty close to my like regular routine.
I use a Ghost product. I use Ghost Pump all the time. It's one of my favorite pump products, and that's a quality brand. Though I'm talking about dog shit brands and the V2 brands. Ghost is another unique Black Swan kind of event in the industry for me. So
you guys have been compared quite a bit to Ghost in terms of just like
that's a compliment.
Marketing and like this is different and like your brand with good products. You'd mentioned something we did on the Q&A, a potential specimen pre-workout energy drink by the end of the year.
Yes.
Everybody seems to want to get into beverage. Mm-hmm. It is extremely expensive to ship. It is tough to get line time. Why do you want to do it because it's just something that interests you guys personally, or is GNC asking for it? Like what's driving the idea to go with that?
A little bit of both. Like GNC doesn't dictate our direction. They actually ask us for insights on direction in general, so I would say they respect our views on things. I think that I use those products every single day myself. Mm-hmm. I take an energy drink pretty much 350 days of the year.
Yeah.
I like it. I like the lower caffeine one, so you can have multiple servings throughout the day. I want to do, there's a lot of good products out there, but I think you can always evolve. Flavor evolves every year. There's better flavors out, right? We've all noticed that as a trend. So I think there's different ways of doing things. I don't think you're reinventing the wheel with it. I'm not going to try. In my opinion, we wouldn't try and do anything outside of the box because most people just want flavored Kool-Aid. That's my opinion. Yeah, that's what
people want. Good tasting caffeine.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
delicious, refreshing, good tasting caffeine, and at that certain price point, which goes up every few months in the hyperinflation. But anyway, I digress.
Does that? So you guys self-manufacture a lot of your own stuff, right? Because you guys have the capabilities here. You wouldn't be doing that. Does that type of thing make you all nervous that you have to put your trust in someone else to make a product for you?
Now in today's economy,
on multiple levels. There's points of redundancy that we've spent 6 months like trying to service just for Glaxon, where it's like, hey, like we can't realistically have all our eggs in the 0-day basket. Like what if
0 days to manufacture?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's like our sister company, if you will. But like if 0 day burns to the ground, or just something horrible happens, like we're
security
totally screwed.
Yeah.
So now Glaxon's kind of grown into a business where like it needs to do everything else on its own, and so like we're kind of like doing what we can to put the organization together that like makes Glaxon like its own company. But it was very much like seeded as like a, hey, let's do this and see if it works. Like we had a conversation earlier, like there's some other opportunities that we haven't even gotten to yet because Glaxon's done so well.
Long may it continue as well.
What I'm getting at is that it's the supply chain is so difficult, and producing custom items right now, probably in any industry, is so difficult that it's not all that lucrative. Like you can walk up to somebody and be like, hey, I want to do, we want to run 200,000 units of product with
Here's
you.
$1 million check.
Yeah, and it still doesn't, like, that used to be the biggest problem. It's like, okay, well, if you have money, then, like, we'll do whatever the hell you want. We got a team of people, they'll put everything together
How many
and make
do
sure
you
it's
need
right.
when you need it by?
So there's, that's an issue. Talking about getting into can, where the margin's razor thin, distribution is, like, everything. Like if you don't have, you can say it about anything in supplements or probably most industries. If you don't have distribution, then you're just dead in the water. Like it doesn't matter how awesome your product is. In can, that's probably way more of an issue than it is with like pre-workout powder or whatever. You can't just like cold call people into buying your cans. Like the people who move cans are big chain distribution. So I think it's a matter of time project for us. Nobody's telling us that they need us to do it any sooner. Sam's probably more inclined to do it sooner rather than later, and I'm not. But that's because like the contract manufacturing portion of Glaxon is like my problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's very easy for me to be like, no, we're doing just fine. Like I'm not interested in doing that. But Sam's actually got a pretty robust background in purchasing like produce on a very high level. So if that's something where I can be like, hey, this is how I think like we should do this and put my opinion on it. Like you go police these people into making us something awesome.
At some point, special projects will become a thing naturally in the company. I wouldn't be looking to do it solo. I'd be looking for a sugar subscription, manufacturer, or whatever you would like to call it, a partner.
Right.
If you look at anyone who has done it recently successfully, they've all had pretty substantial investment and partnerships, and we would be looking to replicate that because it's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Joey, did you spend time in beverage in previous life?
Oh, I've totally spent time in beverage before.
So, does that the formulation for a stable liquid excite you as much as say these powders and capsules you're doing?
Absolutely, it does. But there's a whole different set of challenges that you have to go through. You have to be at a certain pH level. You have to have certain preservatives and stuff that are in there, and colors behave differently when you actually have like a full-fledged liquid that has to be at a low pH. So it's not as easy to like say color something blue. You can color something red, you can color something green. Coloring something blue is like hard to do unless you're using like artificial colors. But I actually, I've had a beverage before, and it did
not
pretty
go very well.
Well, I mean, it did go well until it didn't go well, until like I had like huge demand and not enough money, kind of thing. and what else was cool about it was the fact that I actually got some hands-on development experience doing that kind of stuff.
Right.
And I got the best sports nutrition food and beverage in 2017. That was a Supply Side Editor's Choice Award.
Oh boy.
Credentials.
Killing it.
Credentials.
All right. Well, before we take our first little break, tell us what we're about to.
Yeah. Now I must admit, I didn't want to make a massive noise shaking it up, and there was no ball put in the shaker. Whoever brought me the shaker.
Should have had ice. You would have been fine. Anyway, is this strawberry or is this cookies?
This is the cookies and milk flavor.
Cookies and milk.
Milk and cookies.
Should we put an ice cube in it?
Yes.
If you'd like ice cubes
Please
for it,
put ice.
that's great. This is the new Protos Way cookies and milk, not cookies and cream, cookies and milk flavor of Protos.
All right. So you said cookies and milk. Like, what kind of cookie are we talking about?
We're talking like cookies that you find
Not
on
a
the
chocolate
counter.
chip.
So not a chocolate chips, like a sugar
They
cookie.
definitely taste like cookies you didn't make.
Well, yeah.
Which actually is a little better than had you made them.
All right.
Does anyone here actually know how to make fucking cookies apart from Bischoff?
You buy the Pillsbury things at the store and then you put them in the oven.
Oh, I'm a cookie making fool.
You buy the boxes filled with them.
No, I'm not talking about you. Okay.
All right, boys. Cheers. Cheers. You guys taste buds.
One sip, right?
Can I ask you about the one sip?
You can ask me anything you want.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I was gonna say, yeah, the one sip review I just saw 2 seconds ago was 2 sips.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's good, right?
Yeah. A lot of times with like for me, anytime I get like cookies and cream or milk and cookies or cookies and milk, like the base is always like weird to me.
This is a lot different.
This one
No,
is
This
cookies and cream
is
I've had.
a
Yeah,
sugar
so it's
cookie.
not cookies and cream. It's
It
literally
really
a
is.
sugar
Yeah,
cookie
yeah.
and a glass of milk.
It almost reminds me of like the middle of like, can I say Oreo?
We're
Like
using
the-
I mean,
It's definitely
I
different.
don't
It's like
get
a-
that. I don't get the middle of an Oreo.
It's definitely
vibe.
sugar. It's like sugary. It's like
Yeah.
more.
I get
sugar would probably be it.
I get sugar cookie
Yeah.
and like a little like kind of like a vanilla milkish
Mhm.
vibe,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
it makes me like want like a like sugar cookie crumbs.
Yeah, my grandma had these little like flour kind of looking sugar cookies that had a hole in the middle of them. And we'd always eat those. It reminds me of that if you dip those in
Like the
milk.
like almost like the vanilla version of Oreo.
Yeah.
I love how
Golden
you looked
Oreo.
at
Maybe that's-
American.
Or are you talking about like those? Are you talking about like the cookies that came in the tin?
I mean, those are good too.
Oh
thick.
my god! Yes,
Yes.
that might
like
be
that.
it.
With milk, yeah.
I will say
Okay.
what makes this better than most, in my opinion, is the protein blend that you guys use, because the mouthfeel.
Yeah.
In me, I like the mouthfeel on something like this versus like a straight isolate tends to be a little bit more thin to me.
It's not vanilla with like little like black specks in it.
No,
It's
no,
vanilla.
no,
It's a
no.
lot
Not vanilla
different,
milk
yeah.
or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's got that sugar cookie vanilla, maybe a little bit of lemon, but not it's
Definitely the
imperceptible.
golden cookies.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You guys have something for us to taste after the break too?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
All right, take a quick break, come back, boom.
Didn't give us any feedback, though, really.
I told you it was awesome.
It was
Remember?
amazing. It tasted like those
Delicious.
tin can fucking cookies. Those
No,
vanilla-
you said Oreos. I said the tin can.
Well, no, the golden Oreos.
Yeah. Nah.
It was
Well,
very
first I
good.
was thinking about the white
Hey,
one. but
I
was
would
like,
love,
wait,
if Ghost is
it's
listening, I would love a golden Oreo flavor protein.
Dude,
So would I.
They would kill that.
Yeah, so would I. This one is what we're about to try here.
That is the strawberry.
It smells like pure strawberry.
Just
Yeah.
strawberries and
Strawberry
strawberry milk.
milk.
Okay, strawberry milk.
Yeah.
Oh, it does kind of smell like the Nesquik.
That's kind of what we were going for.
That's good.
It's not just strawberry.
So
Strawberry
That has
pie.
great mouthfeel. by the
full
way. Right
full
off the bat.
transparency. I was telling Sam this earlier. I was sent a beta sample of it, and I didn't like it. The one you guys
It's
sent me.
completely different.
Yeah, I said it was like a sourness to it. It was almost like
Not good.
eating a freeze-dried strawberry. It wasn't great, and I said, if you're trying to be Nesquik, this isn't it. This is much closer to Nesquik.
This is really good. It almost sounds like a strawberry shortbread background.
It's got a tingliness to
It has
it.
something in the background. That's
This
like
is better than the
vanilla.
tub that you just bought today.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I mean, the tub you just bought today is very good. This is better than that.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, I'm a big fan of the natural protein flavors, not super artificially. You know, sometimes it can be too much. Obviously, if you get like a crazy flavor, you're going to expect the artificial crap with no sugar.
Right.
Something basic like a strawberry or a chocolate, you don't need to go mad with the artificial shit.
I think the mouthfeel really adds to the experience quite a bit. Like,
Dude,
what a-
it's the fucking milk, dude.
Yes.
Just put
It makes it
hydrated
milkshake.
milk in there.
Literally.
That's really
Go ahead
good.
and smell that. I never liked strawberry quick as a kid.
I
wouldn't
fucking
go
hate
for the
all
chocolate.
of them.
I
All the
prefer-
strawberry milks, fuck them all
Yeah,
in a
they're-
fucking
they're
bucket
gross.
with every fucking flavor of grape that ever.
I
you know.
fucking love them. Just so people know.
I like chocolate.
Anyway, there's
For
different.
chocolate
Look,
sauce.
I think there's hope for people like me in this world that are so jaded by strawberry and grape flavors because you just never know what to expect, right?
True. No.
I like them all.
And well, you know, I'm just one of those people. I'm standoffish.
Some
I've had a
people think
strawberry
cucumbers taste
or
better
a
pickled.
grape disappoint me in my life, and it's
Right.
been very impactful. Dimetapp is definitely guilty of this.
Diamond Tap is awesome.
I like.
Shut your
I
mouth.
lof
Whoa.
grape flavor.
This-
Whoa!
This
Lots
was
of
happy-
emotions around
awesome.
our grapes, gentlemen.
This was our biggest disagreement.
Diamond
with this
Tab is
department.
awesome.
He hates grape. I love grape. I would have to review all the grapes because like I love grape.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
listen.
I'm not gonna grab. I'm never gonna pick a grape supplement off the shelf. But I like.
No, it's Russian roulette with that shit.
I like the flavor of Diamond Tap though.
If you've ever had one of the OG grape flavors from like 10 years ago, which tasted like fucking arsehole.
Yeah, the
It
muscle
will
tech
put,
stuff.
oh, mate,
Yeah.
can I say this? Yeah, I guess I can say this. The Dark Rage grape You ever tried
That's
that
not around
pre-workout?
anymore.
No, it's not around anymore. Like MHP back in the day.
Okay.
There's people in the Discord who know exactly what the hell you're talking
Yeah,
about.
Dark Rage, great products, but they were fucking disgusting.
Well, innovation doesn't taste good. That's what I would have said back then, but now it
Back
definitely
then,
has
you
to.
just used to chug shit.
I don't care what it tastes like
Yeah.
as long as it works.
You
Yeah,
give
that's
us
what-
me in a
that's how it was
brown
back in
paper
the day.
fucking bag.
Yeah.
That's a
Whiskey
good question.
pump
Sorry.
stuff.
Right, so it used to be if something tastes like shit, I don't care. It tastes like shit. Let me chug it back. Flavor has progressed so far today. So
Flavor is king. Flavor is above formula for most people now.
right, but should it still be that way, or should it still be I want effects over flavor? That's what I'm kind of curious about. Because there are still people say that don't worry about flavor. If it's the nastiest, gnarliest tasting thing, but it works well.
It
I'll
better
still
do
chug it.
something amazing. And in addition to make my genitals bigger.
I better gain 20 pounds of muscle to taste bad these days. Okay. I was saying,
Yeah,
Six
you
weeks.
better put up or shut up
Study
with
funded
your
by the
effects
University of
if
Florida.
your flavors suck.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that's that point too. It's like, who's your target consumer, right? Like, if you want to get somebody that's walking into the Costco, you better leave with flavor. Who cares about formula at that point? Because I mean, they are going to convince themselves that what they're drinking is working, and for the most part, the C4 at Costco works for many people.
in general,
right?
everybody feels caffeine and
The beta alanine.
it works.
Yeah.
Not the beta alanine. I feel something, it tastes good, it gets me to the gym. We've talked about this before on your podcast, Robert. Like, most of us would be fine just taking C4. Getting that energy boost, going to the gym, we'd be fine. But of course, we get better results using, better
Yeah,
products.
efficacious.
But for the most part, most of us would get fine results just taking our C4 or a C4 product and, go to the gym, getting a good workout from that boost in energy. But, it has a great product experience at the end of the day.
Scruff Daddy here says that it's like when people buy Bucked Up and think that it's quality, and I'm like, come on. But they do, in their defense, have great flavors.
Yeah,
and they
do
nail
have
it
some of
right
the best
there.
flavors.
And the formulas aren't as bad as some people
They're
think.
not.
them to be.
They're totally.
For the most part, they have the basics down right. Like the citrulline's usually
It's just overpriced.
The
What it
caffeine's
is.
higher.
Yeah, they sell theirs for profit.
Yeah,
Just the deer antler gimmick is where they lost me, which is unfortunately their
But it's
entire
the Razzle
existence.
Detros of the brand, so you can't remove it now.
Das Labs,
Yeah.
deer antler spray.
Yeah,
Labs.
yeah. I actually knew the original founder of that, the guy from Utah. He sold it to a private equity company. Really cool guy, actually. And I love the branding. It actually inspired quite a lot of people to go with like that silhouette kind of vibe.
Yeah.
So took it in a different direction in the end, but that was what I was originally thinking, is how cool the Pitbull face looked in the same kind of fashion as the beer.
Looking straight at you.
I was going to ask this question before Mike came back in the room, but since he's here, I'm asking anyway. You two both transplants outside, right? Like, you came in to help Mike and team here build this thing into what it is today. What was...
Not really, like Joey was here before Glaxon started.
Okay.
I was here
What
before
about,
Glaxon.
like, what about this environment, Joey, like, attracted you to come over here, buy into Mike, and the vision of what he wanted to do with Zero Day and eventually Glaxon, or, like, what drove you to make that choice?
Have you seen my office?
I
Not
haven't.
yet.
It's fantastic.
Dude, it's like I'm a pig in shit every fucking day. The fact that I could come over here and work for somebody who's a manufacturer and have like direct access to, forget my lab, just like an entire warehouse full of raws that I can just completely pull and be artistic with. And, the ability to do small batch runs at the beginning was really great. And to take that, and we're basically looking at our timeline right now. How can you take going from small batch runs to major distribution in GNC? Apparently the answer is like a little 3 years-ish. But Michael's chuckling. But the other thing is, like, if you look at like the lab and how that's set up, it's a studio, it's a lab, it's an office, and there's a whole library of ingredients from people like Gerhard and all these other people out there that are just like constantly sending me samples, and it's like it's so overwhelming at times that it's like I just don't have time to really keep up with all of this like thoroughly. But then again, there's things where it's like we have a great happy accident where I'm like, oh, I forgot I have this, and then I'm like, oh, we should probably use this in this product because that makes sense with the whole theme of how that product is going. And, so to answer your question, like the opportunity for vertical integration and what we could do from that point, the power and the leverage that we could have from that that's what was so alluring to this.
All right. I have a question.
And
then.
space and NASA.
Well, let Sam answer his real quick. Like, what brought him over? Sam have something to say? Like, what drew you? Sam, you got a plethora of experience too. A couple different brands, big brands, your own brand. What about Michael? What about what they were doing here? Did you want to be part of it?
Well, first, being able to make products that we wanted to take was obviously a big thing. Not a lot of brands can do that. As we've alluded to earlier, we have had to cut back in some areas and focus more on areas which make sense. And we made some mistakes. We did make some mistakes. Not everything was a hit out the door. We had one or two stinkers, so it's set us up for good growth and success. But I think that's probably the main thing, was just having the opportunity to not worry about supply, just worry about sales and marketing. What can you really do if you are vertically integrated? And, I mean, it's a perfect match for me.
All right. So my question is, this has been on my mind for a bit, probably for a while now. So you guys have like, you know, all these interesting products that no other brand really has. You know, I still to this day don't really know what category Flight is in. I still don't know what Zerion actually is, but I know a lot of people like it. It's like very different. Where do you guys come up with these like ideas and how to approach the categories differently, and almost in a way come up with your own categories? Because, and like, where does it start? You know, like, what's the story on that? It's so different from any other company I've ever seen.
Usually in a text message between multiple people is where it will start.
Yeah.
And then it will metamorphosize. But I'll let Joey talk about this because it's more him and Mike's area originally. So I'll come in from a slightly different angle. I'll come at it more as a consumer. So DR creatine, Dr. Creatine is an example. Number one complaint from a lot of people is stomach bloating. That's a real world thing. That's not like some, you know, technical knowledge or something. That's just like anecdotal from dealing with it. And now people are seeing, yeah, Dr. Creatine. That's one example, just as me thinking about it from a consumer, what I'd like to see. Never mind Joey going into, well, these are categories that don't even exist yet.
I think Dr. Creatine is a great example, because when I heard about that, I was like, well, fuck, that makes sense. That was like my first reaction. But like, it's something so simple. And I would say like one of the main themes of it is that we like to do things differently. Like, and that applies to a lot of.
Hey, can I throw that open to Mike on Goon? Because that's one example. How many times did we fuck around pivoting on the Goon formula and then what we ended up with?
How many formulas, how many labels have been a complete and utter fucking nightmare to get done. Like when you're going through it, but then once it's done, it's behind you and you're like, ah, and then you're like, all right, I'm bored. What's next? And then you're like on to the next. Wonder Collagen was a concept that we just really had to like hammer that out in so many different ways.
That's one which hasn't really caught on fire yet. It's kind of just been bubbling under. Like, you know, we have sales for it and decent demand, but nothing crazy. I think in like 12 months' time, people are going to catch up with that and be like, oh wow, this makes so much more sense. This is such a more comprehensive formula than just generic bovine collagen in terms of, you know, efficacy, which is what we want.
What sets it apart, I guess, for the people that aren't sure? Why go for this versus Vital Proteins or any of the other 4,000 other collagen supplements that are
If you want fancy collagen, you'll buy our collagen. If you want fucking grab bag cowhide scrapings, you'll buy Vital Proteins. Okay.
Break it down a bit
On
more.
a simple level, it's like, it's as far as collagens go, the flavored ones like are definitely maybe industry leading. Like there's some particular things that we have to do to the collagen to make it taste or to flavor really, really well, and I don't see that being commonplace in flavored collagens.
Well, my wife says it always tastes like nails whenever she tries a collagen.
Ours?
No. Other collagen.
Thank you.
She hasn't tried yours yet, except for was it the collagen that you'll send us? Was the
rose one?
Yes.
Rose?
Dude, that one is so different. It's
I like it because it's the only refreshing collagen to go to, right? Like it's not
chocolate.
Yeah, but every other
I
one she
wouldn't
said
call
tastes like
chocolate
nails.
refreshing though.
Well, yeah, it's not that.
Right. Yeah. I drink it at night, and I think I go to it over the cinnamon or the pumpkin.
Pumpkin's
Just because it's like a nice, like kind of cooling kind of, I don't know. Anyway, I think our label will get some people, if they're just looking for a collagen and they happen to buy ours, like it's going to be hard for them to find something flavored as well. There are really good flavored collagens out there. I'm not saying there aren't, but those two things, and they have nothing to do with the formula. and that's like where we're at now. Like, it's not worth innovating with ingredients unless you can like check the other things off. You know, it has to be like, it has to be incredibly delicious, like that people want to come back for that. It has to look cool, and then you can put like awesome stuff in the product, and like that's the third layer. And I feel like we have this kind of conversation every time we do a podcast, but it's like that's the third layer where like a year later someone's like, oh well, I'm just not gonna go anywhere else. Like this is collagen with these other things, and you know, it tastes better than the other ones I tried, and it's the same price point, and I think it looks cool, and you know, whatever. But yeah, I forget what the specific question was.
The main question.
We haven't really fully answered it.
Yeah, that's
I want to touch on is that bioavailability is for me, most important part of that formula.
Yeah, still, and we even addressed that. We have the IO collagen, which is like, and estrogen, both featuring in this product. So like, you know, there's that. But on the macro scale of what you were talking about, like, how the fuck do you find these little weird...
Like, what is Zerion anyway?
They're like overlapping categories. Like, Zerion is part GDA and part anti-aging. And you can look at something like Flight, which is something that's like partly like a GH-ish kind of product.
But that's not bullshit, just fusing two categories together, like arbitrarily. The correlation between anti-aging and blood sugar is there, so there's a tie-in on the back end. It's not just scattergun approach, you know?
No, and you know, where you can reference different studies and stuff like that, and you can also, or the other common thing that was about those two was peptides. And peptides and a DR cap, which is, you know, become kind of our bread and butter. Actually, Zerion's not a DR cap. That peptide's acid stable. But the thing about it is, like, putting those kinds of things, it's all, once again, it's the different pattern repeating again. So like, instead of doing a GDA that's like your standard block
30 minutes before a meal.
Well, and the other thing is, like, GDAs for me kind of became like pre-workouts, because you were seeing the same things over and over again in like every GDA, and it's like, you know, this category is starting to get boring, so we're going to do something drastically different and just try to mix it up and see how people deal with it. Having upgrades like dihydroberberine, pretty fucking cool. The NMN, that's pretty cool. And then we have the Pep2dia, so that's like another version of like actual peptides that we're using in formulas, and then you'll see that pattern repeating across the entire line. But Flight is like this combination attempt at, you know, general hormone and organ health, but going through some of the spec sheets, we're looking to fine tune some of that. But the other really cool part about Flight that I don't think people talk about a lot is the whole stem cell part of it. You know, there's colostrum and placenta and orchic and all these different things that, you know, have peptides that we're trying to get in your gut, but like, the stem cell aspect of it for recovery is also something that is like really like not looked at, and there's a company that's been selling this raw material for a long time that's like had access to, you know, a substantiated, you know, claim that they actually can increase stem cell output into the blood. And you got to look at this from a couple of different perspectives, because that's not necessarily a good thing. So like, having lots of stem cells in your blood probably means that whatever different growth factors and stuff that are in its immediate proximity are going to have an effect on the fate that the stem cell becomes. So unless you have ample blood flow to like your extremities or something like that, say you're completely sedentary, sit on your ass and take flight, you're probably going to release those stem cells and make a lot of red blood cells. Congratulations.
Not medical advice, just
yeah. This is my speculation. Yeah. But it's also something that is reflected in the studies. And they've shown stem cell increase output in rodents. They've also done it in humans. They've also done it in horses. And I thought the horse one was really neat, because they were looking at using this kind of like these different algae extracts in race horses to see, you know, could this work for their recovery after a race. And they found out that within like 60 to 90 minutes, there were substantial increases in stem cell output. So I thought that was pretty neat, a really cool story to tell, and you know, it overlapped those recovery and GH-ish kind of patterns that you see in a couple of different products. So to forge a path there made sense.
And so the main question now, How did that come about? Like, how did you guys text, hey, let's do something with stem cells in a supplement? Or like, how did that product?
I can't take any credit for this at all.
Like, was it a text? Yeah, or like
This
any
is part of the
Xerion
original
or
Glaxon.
or Goon mode, anything like anything interesting like.
Like, I don't know, originally it was like because Joey and I just like tinkered, before Sam was with us, like we still do this shit, Sam does it with us now too, but we just tinkered with things that we wanted for us, and then like sort of created, endless like sheets and formulas and potential things, and maybe we would mock up like
We had the whole lineup
an
before we
R&D
even launched.
MFG sheet and be like, hey, this is what I want. Like, let's make one of these for ourselves to have and like just take every day. The NMN product is something we made like over 2 years ago. It was a little bit different. We put it in DR caps, and like Joey and I both took home like 15 bottles. Trying to think of something
that was
else.
bougie as fuck. That one.
It was, yeah. That one was
I wish
not
that one was
commercially
available.
viable. Still isn't commercially viable.
That one product for every day for the bougie motherfucker earlier asking the questions, that was it. Because
Yeah.
that was like the Rolls Royce.
I think we sent that. We sent a picture of like a kilo of NMN to people like maybe 2 years ago. The
Yeah.
brand was like 2 months old. I think we sent it to like maybe Ben, Kane, and Justin. Maybe you, but you probably wouldn't have really cared too much. But just random like industry people who we thought might think it was cool. And like Joey and I literally just consumed that over, let's say, like a year and a half between the two of us. Sam got a couple bottles, so on. Serenity was one where I kind of got personally obsessed with phosphatidylserine.
And we expanded.
We didn't make a product here with that in it. We didn't have one for Glaxon yet. We're just kind of toying. Joey went out and got samples from like all these different vendors. We're messing with them. Rambling a little bit, but I think Joey is I was just joking in the Discord because like Joey's like a real life Jarvis for this operation. Like, he just knows like right away about like all kinds of shit. Like I can find like some obscure peptide. And if he doesn't know about it, he'll like pull up the molecular structure and be like, oh, this is like a version of this that I was looking at like actually like a decade ago. And then he'll pull up a Wikipedia that'll be some similar thing. Half time that similar thing is a drug, but like what we're talking about isn't, Anyway, so there's a lot of tinkering that goes on there, and it creates just like a war chest of like stuff that we're messing with, and then it becomes a viable product. Sam will come in and he's like the perfect benchmark because his opinion is often so different, or it's grounded more in like the consumer or like the typical consumer. With his experience like coming from Gaspari, he's like way more grounded in the typical consumer that was and still very much is, but like, and then Joey and I are more grounded in like what we think that can like typical consumer can be like, made into, right? And so there's like a marrying of like, how do you sell to somebody that was like a core customer of Gaspari like 7 years ago, with a concept that like is foreign to the entire industry, right? And so like you start seeing, you might like if you look at our products that we've launched over the last year or so, you'll see like a convergence of like, hey, their label's really badass, like their flavors are really good now, and these are like key things that like just that customer definitely wants, and it's very obvious, like, and then someone else that's like some super user in the industry picks it up and they're like, oh, this is like innovative as hell, right? But it's still the guy walking in GNC that just wants a pump product.
The way we look at it is everyone's money's green, so if you're an informed consumer or you're not informed, you shouldn't get a worse or better product based on your knowledge. Not everyone can be, like, we all like cars, right? But how many of us really understand how a combustion engine works? Even people who like cars.
I don't even know what a steering wheel is.
Nobody knows how this device works.
No.
There's like 5 people on Earth, Point is, we all buy them. They come out with a new one, like, the updates, and you're like, oh, I need to get another one. You do everything on it. Like, you rely on it for, like, so many key things in your life. And supplements are they're kind of the same. I mean, once you get like into the routine of using certain supplements, like if I were to take them away from you, you would like feel. I mean, I know I would if people took like certain key, like if people took caffeine away from me and you know, and creatine and just like basic protein. You know, I mean, I'm fancy, so like if I didn't have like a GDA around or a stress product around or a sleep product around or a pump product around, like I would start to get like kind of, I would feel lost, you know. Totally rambling here, but
I can relate to that. I can relate to that.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't wake up, if I wake up without caffeine, my day is completely ruined.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not the caffeine I want, if it's coffee, it sucks. If it's a caffeine pill, it sucks. If it's not like a nootropic or a fat burner or whatever, I'm completely lost for the day.
Yeah, you do get spoiled working here because we get to try things that aren't out there, which might never come out. And then what we do is we try and take things which aren't for the mass market and make them available to the mass market. And then when they understand that it works, they want to come back for more. Like, and that's the thing. You're just giving people a better quality and a real product which makes label claim, which is a fucking elephant in the room that everyone needs to talk about in this industry all the time because, you know, not all things are equal. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah, that was the coolest thing. It's past now because it's just like it isn't. But before we had Glaxon, like I used to get a personal kick out of like Sam moves down here. He's never like been in and around contract manufacturing on a day-to-day basis. You know, I used to get a personal kick out of being like, hey, like you want me to make a sample of this is your proposed formula. Okay, so let's go to the lab and we're gonna make you one of these, and like you have no idea like what it's like when this kind of shit meets label claim.
The original
you know
specimen,
what I mean?
like everyone thought it was spike. Now I knew it wasn't because obviously we made it, but I understood it because it hit so fucking hard. And you're like, for nothing, like no DMHA, no fucking amp citrate, none of these.
Yeah, I mean the craziest thing in it was alstashine, which is like totally fine, even today. And just an aggressive dose of niacin, you know, a clinical dose of beta alanine.
I really feel like niacin got brought back by
you know, 2 forms of Yohimbe Rowalcine and Yohimbe HCl.
That became a thing too.
Yohimbes actually are not like there's like a very small place, like there's a very small amount of like vendors for legit Rowalcine, and the 2 that we
talk about that story.
What's that?
Do you want to talk about that story?
No.
Probably
okay.
So anyway, there's a couple other big brands out there. I know exactly where they get their Rowalcine. There's a secondary source for that, and there's these 2 companies that are basically like suing each other over the like rights to produce it based on their
there was
patents.
a turf war.
So
going on.
I'm not going to get into the legality of it. It's all like once you understand it, it's really not all that concerning. But the point I'm trying to make is that like really good Yohimbe isn't like, it's not like you can just go out and buy them like cereal. Like there's only a couple places to get it. Most of it comes out of India.
Listen, we've all had a pre-workout which gives you that weird kind of like sweaty, clammy, and obviously your Yohimbe's going to make you sweat and have the chills, but that dirty, that horrible feeling. It doesn't make you feel good. It just makes you feel like shitty. And you just want to sit in like a fucking bath or something. And, get it out of your system as soon as possible. That's the thing. The high quality things used in the right dosages, which make label claim, because again, you're talking about super small dosages, and the ability to miss it, as we've all found out over our time, when someone misses a decimal place, it can change things, you know?
I remember the first time Sam tried GFY. And yeah.
Was it GFY or was it regular specimen?
It might have been either one, but there was a hell of a lot of niacin in it.
He went to well now it's Alphaland, but he went to Alpha Elite. I want to say it was like probably like July, so it was like 100 degrees outside.
Oh, easily.
You were still driving.
90% humidity.
You were still driving the hoopty.
This was the first GFY.
What's a hoopty?
It was a 2018 Dodge Challenger. That's a hoopty.
Well, it was like it was like scuffed up and had some like it needed some body work.
Someone had reversed into it and driven off in a parking
Did you
lot.
like pretty much die that day in the gym? Is that what you're trying to
Well, so he comes back. He comes back and is like like it looks like he jumped in the shower with his clothes on.
Yeah, makes sense.
And
before he goes to the gym, he whips his shirt off in the parking lot, runs around in circles, and you can see it start to take over.
Yeah, so he takes it, and we just get caught up in some bullshit conversation.
No, let's get it straight. You and some other guy who I won't name, fucking talking glass eyes to sleep, keeping me in the room after I've drunk pre-workout. Hey, I'm going to the gym. Yeah, that's fine. Can we just talk about this for 2 minutes? Like 45 minutes later.
Well, he doesn't have a conversation for 2 minutes.
No, you see.
Six times. Yeah, there's conversations for a half hour to an hour.
You know, there's this Texas lack of punctuality, but anyway, I digress. Point is, it had me.
It's called hospitality.
Yeah.
Proper. All right, boys, we gotta wrap it up here. We're gonna be out of time, but a solid 2020, solid 2021, probably another big 2022. We'll have to do this again because I think there's some questions that we didn't touch on, and
Oh my god, yeah, that's it. We're like all over the place.
Yeah.
Hopefully you guys get something out of it.
Entertainment, at least.
We have tomorrow as well, guys.
Yeah.
all right, appreciate you, gentlemen. Robert, always a pleasure. G,
Always, man.
it's cool to see you.
Thank you guys for hosting us again.
Now, if you guys known how long it took to get this podcast recorded, I got into Houston, I got lunch, I got to the Glaxon office at like 1:30. We didn't start recording, I shit you not, until like 5 o'clock at night, because it took Joey that long to figure out how to set up the podcasting equipment. They went out and bought a soundboard, mics, everything for this podcast. And technology won. Joey Savage, nothing. We finally got it to work, and we gave you guys what you saw and listened to there. Again, appreciate you all for tuning in, watching, listening, etc. Hit that subscribe button. Write us a review. Helps out the algorithm. Make sure you check out our official website, fitnessinformant.com. The crew at Glaxon is going to have a massive 2022. They could have easily won Brand of the Year in 2021. So if they can follow that up in 2022, which they admittedly said is going to be tough, but I don't know. I think that this crew has a lot to prove, a lot of things that they want to show the industry, and I think the innovation arm that is given to them via the GNC partnership could be absolutely massive to this brand. So nothing but love for the crew down at Glaxon. I appreciated my time there. They took me down to Alpha Land. I went to basically the social media influencer capital of the world, and I guess I could say I am one of those. Again, thank you for tuning in. Hit that subscribe button, write that review, follow us on our social channels. Stay up to date here for more episodes of the Iron Union podcast right here on YouTube, and for more supplement reviews, rankings, deals, news, workout routines, and more, visit us on our official website. We are online, fitnessinformant.com.